From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
I saw many people died because they were demanding their rights, and actually all of our rights, but they did. So I decided to go to the street and demand our all right and our freedom, even if I being alone.
Occupy Wall Street's Liberty Plaza got a surprise visit from a leading Egyptian activist, 26-year-old Asma Mahfouz, one of the founders of the April 6th movement that helped topple President Hosni Mubarak. Then, did Goldman Sachs use U.S. taxpayer bailout money to attack Occupy Wall Street's not-for-profit community bank?
Downtown New York, near Wall Street, these are the towers of Goldman Sachs, the mega bank, with over $933 billion in assets, nearly $1 trillion. Goldman has declared war on one of the smallest banks in New York City.
We'll speak with investigative reporter Greg Palast. Then women, war, and peace.
The ordinary civilians are the ones who feel the brunt from the hunger. They watch their children die. The women are the ones raped. And then after conflict, when the wars or the end of the wars are being negotiated, they are never considered.
This year's Nobel Peace Prize winner, Lima Bowie. She's part of a PBS series examining the impact of conflict on women around the world. We'll be speaking with the series director, Abigail Disney. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Obama unveiled a new plan Monday to help U.S. homeowners who owe more than their properties are worth. Speaking in Las Vegas, Obama said the change would make it easier for many homeowners to refinance their loans.
Number one, the barrier will be lifted that prohibits responsible homeowners from refinancing if their home values have fallen so low that what they owe on their mortgage is 25% higher than the current value of their home. And this is critically important for a place like Las Vegas, where home values have fallen by more than 50% over the past 5 years. Second, there are going to be lower closing costs, and certain refinancing fees will be eliminated, fees that can sometimes cancel out the benefits of refinancing altogether, so people don't bother to refinance because they've got all these fees that they have to pay. Well, we're going to try to knock away some of those fees.
Analysts predict the change will help about 1 million homeowners, just a fraction of the country's 11 million underwater borrowers. The Huffington Post reports one of the program's new terms will benefit private sector Wall Street banks, potentially at the expense of taxpayers. There have been a number of developments at protests inspired by Occupy Wall Street. Protesters at Occupy Main and Portland were attacked Sunday morning when a chemical bomb was thrown into the encampment. Police said the homemade bomb, made up of chemicals poured into a plastic Gatorade container, could have caused serious injury. In Texas, 23 activists with Occupy Dallas were arrested Monday for blocking the entrance to a Chase bank, while other activists attempted to close their Chase accounts. In Albany, New York, protesters are continuing to camp across the street from the New York State Capitol. On Sunday, local police refused to remove the protesters from the park in defiance of Governor Andrew Cuomo and the city's mayor. One police official said, quote, "These people were not causing trouble. The bottom line is the police know policing, not the governor and not the mayor." In Illinois, members of Occupy Chicago and a group of nurses protested outside City Hall and the offices of Mayor Rahm Emanuel Monday, one day after Chicago police arrested 130 people, including many nurses, at Occupy Chicago. Meanwhile, in California, police are threatening to raid Occupy Oakland. A tweet posted just as we've been going to air said police and riot gear have surrounded the protest encampment and have begun firing flash grenades and rubber bullets into the camp. The bodies of ex-Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, his son Mu'tasim, and a top aide were reportedly buried in secret this morning in the desert. Meanwhile, calls are growing for the Libyan government to mount an investigation into Gaddafi's death. A new video posted on the website Global Post appears to show one of Gaddafi's captors attempting to sodomize him with a knife shortly before he was killed. Fred Abrahams is special advisor for Human Rights Watch.
I mean, I think an investigation into Gaddafi's death is critical for two reasons. Okay, the first is that if you don't do it, it sends a message that Libyans can take justice into their own hands. And it's not just about Gaddafi, but about all the people who collaborated and have blood on their hands from 42 years. And you don't want to send the message that even the local neighborhood spy can be treated in this way. And the second reason is about reining in the militias. You've got hundreds of armed groups and local militias around Libya now, and if you don't begin to investigate this case, it sends a message that they can operate with impunity, and that is extremely dangerous. The armed conflict in Libya is now done, and the time for using the gun is over. It's time to start creating civilian control and authority and building it with the law.
Human Rights Watch is also calling on Libya's new government to secure the nation's weapons facilities. The group said it recently discovered 2 unguarded sites near Sirte that contain surface-to-air missiles, tank and mortar rounds, large numbers of munitions, and thousands of guided and unguided aerial weapons. A moderate Islamist party is expected to be the winner of Tunisia's first free election. The Ennahda party said its own unofficial tally showed it had won Sunday's vote, the first since the Arab Spring uprisings, which began in Tunisia and spread through the region. Party officials said they were prepared to form an alliance with 2 secularist parties. In news from Turkey, the death toll from Sunday's earthquake has reached 366. Tens of thousands of people have been left homeless. Rescue workers are still digging into collapsed buildings in a battle against time to find survivors. Meanwhile, Turkish tanks and armored vehicles have reportedly crossed into northern Iraq as Turkey expands its offensive against the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK. The move comes a week after multiple attacks by Kurdish forces left 26 Turkish soldiers dead and 22 others wounded. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange said Monday his website has temporarily stopped publishing new documents and may soon be forced to shut down due to funding problems. Assange accused MasterCard, Visa, Bank of America of blocking donations to WikiLeaks for nearly a year.
Since the 7th of December 2010, an arbitrary and unlawful financial blockade imposed by the Bank of America, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and Western Union has destroyed 95% of our revenue. In order to ensure our future survival, WikiLeaks is now forced to temporarily suspend all publishing operations in order to direct all our resources into fighting the blockade and raising funds.
Assange criticized the financial service companies of targeting WikiLeaks, even though the company has never been charged with a crime.
As a result, WikiLeaks has been running on cash reserves for the last 11 months. The blockade has cost the organization tens of millions of dollars in lost donations at a time of unprecedented costs resulting from publishing alliances in over 50 countries with over 90 media and human rights organizations. Our scarce resources now must focus entirely on fighting this unlawful financial blockade.
In news from Africa, a pair of bombings hit the Kenyan capital of Nairobi Monday. 12 people were injured when a grenade was thrown into a bar in the downtown area. Hours later, an explosion at a bus station killed 1 person, injured 8 others. The attacks come a week after Kenyan troops invaded southern Somalia. The New York Times reports U.S. law enforcement agencies have secretly built up networks of Mexican informants that have allowed them to secretly infiltrate some of that country's most powerful criminal organizations. Typically, Mexico is kept in the dark about the United States' actions inside Mexico with its most secret informants. The U.S. informants have reportedly helped Mexican authorities capture or kill about 24 high-ranking and mid-level drug traffickers. In addition, the informants have sometimes given American counter-narcotics agents access to the top leaders of the cartels they're trying to dismantle. Republican Nebraska Governor Dave Heinemann has called the state legislature into special session next week to address growing concerns over the proposed Keystone XL tar sands pipeline. Opposition to the pipeline has been growing in Nebraska, in part because TransCanada wants to run pipeline through the sensitive Sandhills region over the Ogallala Aquifer. The Obama administration is expected to make a decision on the pipeline this year. Meanwhile, environmentalists are criticizing Obama for hiring a former TransCanada pipeline lobbyist as a senior advisor to his 2012 re-election campaign. Broderick Johnson lobbied Congress when he was an employee of the firm Bryan Cave. Johnson is also the husband of National Public Radio's Michelle Norris. Norris announced on Monday she will step down from her hosting duties as host of All Things Considered while her husband works for the campaign. In other environmental news, Syracuse has become the third New York city to ban the natural gas drilling process known as hydrofracking. Albany and Buffalo have already banned fracking. A federal judge has blocked a new Florida law requiring recipients of welfare benefits to pass a drug test. Judge Mary Scriven ruled the law may violate the Constitution's protections against unreasonable search and seizure. In political news, Republican presidential hopeful Rick Perry is scheduled to unveil his proposal today to reform the tax code by giving taxpayers an option to pay taxes under the current code or pay a 20% flat tax. Under a flat tax model, poor and middle-income people will pay a larger share of their income than they do at present. Meanwhile, Perry has openly questioned whether President Obama was born in the United States. When asked by Parade magazine whether he believes Obama's birth certificate is real, Perry said, quote, "I don't have any idea." In an interview today on CNBC, Perry was asked why he brought up the birther issue. Perry said, quote, "It's a good issue to keep alive. It's fun to poke at him." And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.